Good morning. I'm Kwan. I am the organist and director of music at Christ St. Luke's Church in Norfolk, Virginia. I've been here for almost a year. I just moved here from New York City, and it's really wonderful to be here in this area, working with my parish and with the diocese, and to see all the work that's going on here. I'm going to start off by just reminding you about the collect for church musicians and artists. O God, whom saints and angels delight to worship in heaven, be ever present with your servants who seek through art and music to perfect the praises offered by your people on earth, and grant to them even now glimpses of your beauty, and make them worthy at length to behold it unveiled forevermore, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Today I come to you as a church musician, but also as an educator, as an administrator, as a publicist. I think that is the role that musicians and parish staff have to take these days. I wish I could play the organ all day and direct choirs all day, but I usually am playing email all day and coordinating and sending out flyers and trying to get people to come in the doors. And so today I'm not going to only talk about music, but three different topics: music as an outreach tool, how to best maximize the efficiency of part-time musicians in parishes, and then engaging technology for parishes. This isn't strictly about music, but this segment, number 3, was taken from a larger presentation that I heard in Denver this past summer when I went to the Association of Anglican Musicians annual conference, and it was quite illuminating, and I think a lot of you could probably take maybe something out of that. So first, using music as an outreach tool through worship, education, and service. I'm not going to talk about different styles of music, because different things work for different people. Instead, I will try to focus a little bit on what is common between everybody. And one of the biggest things that we can all say works is choirs. And the power of choral singing, coming together and singing together, just like we did at the beginning of this morning. Choirs are more than singing. They involve fellowship, community. Oftentimes, choirs eat together. The amount of Christian formation that happens in choirs is really unbelievable, and could sometimes eclipse our traditional Sunday school, our classes. Choirs have that power to pack in theology and history and formation just in the music that we're singing. And this applies to both children and adults. The bishop was talking about sharing and collaborating our resources together. And I think when you bring people together of different backgrounds and different traditions, it can really build each other up and can be a huge outreach tool, not only in your own parish, but to the greater community. And of course, instrumental music, a chance for people to participate, whether it be through a band, a praise band, through classical music, whatever. Those are all kind of things that we know. Every Sunday in the bulletin at Christ St. Luke's, I write a little kind of a program note about the music. And I find that people really respond well to this, because even if they aren't musicians, they like to learn, and they like to know something about the It's largely from the Hymnal 1982 Companion, which is a wonderful resource. If you don't know it, it's published by Church Publishing, I think, and it basically has notes on every hymn in the 82 hymnal. And it says, All My Hope on God is Founded was written by Herbert Howells around 1930 for use with the words of Robert Seymour Bridges. The hymn is one of Howells' most engaging and noteworthy for its profound lyric beauty and harmonic richness. The tune named Michael honors the composer's son who died in childhood. And people love this. They really respond well to this because they said, oh, I didn't know this, but I'd like to know this. And it spurs them to research more when they go home. And oftentimes I have someone say, oh, I love that thing that you wrote last week. When I went home, I looked up more things on YouTube about whatever composer I talked about. And that is an outreach tool for us because through education, people get more informed, and then they can really identify with it and then become more involved with it. And so I use, for my resources, I use just online searches, liner notes from CDs, music encyclopedias, etc. And as I mentioned, the 1982 Companion. If you don't use the 82 Companion, there are other, or if you don't use the Hymnal 1982, there are also other resources for the other hymnals that are in the physical church. Opening up the church to be a community center through music is a really, I think, effective tool. If you have the resources to offer classes on singing or reading music or church music, I'm thinking about offering a kind of special topic about the Advent O antiphons, because someone came up to me and said, hey, I heard about what these O antiphons, could you tell me a little bit more about it? And of course, this is a very kind of specialized topic, but in your congregation, oftentimes, as I think, as the bishop said, it's not the leadership, but people in the pews that have the expertise in certain things. And if you could engage them, then everyone becomes a little bit more involved. Another model that I've seen in dioceses are come and sing events or sing-alongs. These are things like Messiah sing-alongs, where if your choir is not up to singing the whole Messiah, why don't you have other people do the work for you? Bring in people who want to sing the Messiah, or who want to sing Then This Is Elijah, or whatever piece, or even if it's just Christmas carols. And invite them in, and this is not only in your church, in your parish, but also in the entire community, because that way you'll get people who go to different churches involved. And that, I think, is a really great outreach tool. And so those are just a few things that I mentioned about worship and service and education. Not all of us are blessed with having the kind of the luxury of having a full-time church musician. I think probably most churches in this diocese have part-time church musicians. Is that right? Is that? Yes. Yeah, I see nodding. And so, how can we maximize their efficiency, and how can we support them? The number one thing I would say is join organizations that offer that sort of support. For instance, the American Guild of Organists, every month in their journal, the magazine that they send out, which is quite nice, they have a whole feature on part-time musicians. And it's dedicated solely to people who are a doctor during the week and an organist on the weekend, or whatever their situation may be. And they really offer good advice and what to do, and it's just a great place to find that there are other people in your situation. With the AGO, the American Guild of Organists, there is, of course, the national organization, but there are also local chapters. And here in Midlothian, I'm sure there's, I think it's the Richmond chapter of the AGO. Down in Tidewater, it's the Tidewater chapter. And the kind of local chapters offer really collegial support and gatherings so that you could really see that you are not alone. Also the Association of Anglican Musicians, Royal School of Church Music, and the American Choral Directors Association. Those are just 4 organizations that offer support, and I'm sure there are a lot more. All of these organizations publish articles and journals that help you plan and help you get ideas. All of these organizations have conferences where you can network and meet other people in your situation. And for instance, the AGO offers certification exams. So if you want to learn more and you want to really push yourself to a higher level, then you can take a certification exam and get certified and get oftentimes a little bit more compensation if you have that certification. So I encourage you to look into that. More resources. Clergy should really work with our musicians to plan out worship for the year. Oftentimes when you have part-time musicians, it's hard for them to be there during the week when you're working on the bulletin or when you're making decisions about Sundays. And so if you can do that all in advance, for instance, maybe in August, looking through until Christmas, sit down with your musicians and work with them. Use the Episcopal Musician's Handbook, which is a wonderful resource that comes out and suggests hymns and readings, etc. And there are many websites that help you as well. Church Publishing has stuff on their website. GIA, which is a music publisher, has things on theirs. And I will mention a few more later. And so I think it's really important to support our church musicians, especially when they're part-time, because they are pulled in so many directions, and oftentimes they are not recognized for the amount of work that they do in preparation and in practice. It really does not add up to what they see. Okay. Now, different things work for different people, obviously, and so see what works for you, because the things that I'm going to be talking about just right now will not work for everybody. But some things may, and it takes a little bit of imagination and a little bit of courage to see what will work for your congregation. A survey was sent out to 100 plus church musicians asking, what is the most valuable tool, system, or practice in your use of non-musical technology? And so, these are some of the results. One respondent said, it has been a really interesting year for me technology-wise. My new rector began in July of last year, and since then I have gone from having a rector whose idea of technology was a yellow legal pad, and his one gesture toward modernity, a mechanical pencil, to someone wanting a YouTube channel linked to a Facebook page, etc. My job title has grown from parish musician and associate for liturgy to associate to director for liturgy, music, communications. My guess is that a number of our membership find themselves in similar situations. As I mentioned earlier, church musicians have to be tech savvy. They have to be organized. They have to have a lot of different skill sets, because nowadays in our modern church, we really face different challenges that we didn't have in the past. So what are some best practices? Back up your data, obviously, right? Use multiple destinations to maximize this. If you back it up online with the convenience of the backup, you can get it from anywhere. Speed of recovery, if you back it up locally, you can get it faster. And safety of data, if you back it up in different places, then it's just safe as well. And so Crash Plan and Mosey are examples of passwords, including spreadsheets, apps, and Dashlane is a place where you can find out more about that. PDF is your friend. Create PDFs when sharing files. Why? Because not everybody can open the file that you intended for it to look. And PDF opens the same on all computers. Document sharing and collaboration. Use Dropbox, iCloud, Google Drive, Google Docs, InSync, SkyDrive, etc. Those are all great resources that you and your parish can use to share things online. They provide data backup, previous versions, and access to deleted files. You can access them from anywhere. Real-time collaboration. Have you used Google Docs where two people are on at the same time and you can see them typing the little words as you're watching on the screen? That's a great resource if you are making service bulletins, and different people have different parts of the bulletin. That's just a really handy thing. And using networks at church is the way to go. And FileMaker is an app that records attendance, can auto-calculate pay for your employees. You can track donors, donations, and event participants with programs like FileMaker. Service audio recording. Who in their parish records their services? And do you broadcast or put them up online?
We put them on Facebook.
Facebook, yeah. Mm-hmm. Our Sunday morning services are recorded each week to a Mac using alarms and iCal that trigger scripts to initiate and end the recordings. Then another automated script runs to turn the raw audio into MP3s, which are then moved into a shared Dropbox folder. Our parishioner grabs those files from the comfort of his own home and edits them for our iTunes sermon podcast. That sounds a little complicated, but it just tells you that there are ways to do this, and it's really the way of the future. I mean, even if you don't have 100 people in church on Sunday morning, you can have 100 people listen to your sermons by podcasting them, by making them available online. And you will be able to access this whole PowerPoint and then some in the future, so you don't have to write anything down now. But there are so many resources online that you can use to help you with planning, to help you with all sorts of things. The lectionary page, the Choral Public Domain Library. That's a really useful tool for musicians. It's a website that is totally free, that you can print off sheet music. And anything that's in the public domain is on there. Well, not everything, but if it's public domain and someone has taken the time to put it on the computer, then it's on there. Utopia Project is the same thing. Oramus, if you need text for hymnals, etc. And so you can kind of go down the list and see that there are lots of online resources, and I'm sure that you may have other resources that you use that you can share with us. One of the most useful things for me has been an Excel spreadsheet for tracking all music used in our services. I now have 3 years worth of data. The columns are all the parts of the service, from prelude through psalm, motet, sanctus, hymns, etc. to postlude. Each row is a different service. This way I can generate various reports. How many times a certain hymn has been sung, a list of all anthems we've sung, a list of the glory we've used, etc. It's handy for planning, to remind me what's in our repertory, and to prompt ideas of what new things I want to introduce. Also, it's linked via a data merge that I don't fully understand. The choir member set this up for me. To a document that I send each week to our leaflet producer, listing all the musical bits of the service. I enter the music into a master spreadsheet, and then it automatically generates a weekly document that I can send to her as a Word document. So once again, options. Lots of options out there, and different ways of producing bulletin or whatever sort of publication you need to do at in the church. And so, what are some common programs for bulletin creation? Word, Pages, Adobe InDesign, PageMaker, which has been replaced by InDesign, Publisher, WordPerfect, and of course the Right Stuff, which has pins and other things if you want to put those in your bulletin. Store bulletin ready anthem inserts text in a Word document, and so you can just copy and paste. This Arch Abbey has wonderful fonts. If you have chant or other sorts of musical needs, go to their website and you can download those for free. PowerPoint for paperless worship services as we move into the future, and Sibelius and Finale are wonderful music engraving programs. Google Calendar is your friend. For communicating schedules, you can have church or music departments or other music or other departments subscribe to different calendars and then have a master calendar for the whole church. Keep and Share is a paid calendar, but has a nonprofit discount if you want to have more options. But really, having a centralized calendar and not just the one office calendar that's kept in the office is really useful. And promotion and communication. Constant Contact is a great resource if you want to email things to your congregation. So is MailChimp, vertical response. Mail Designer is something I don't know about, but that's an option. And then pyramid distribution. You can create something, send it out to people, and have them send it out to their lists. And that's the way to spread the word. If you have files that are too large, email largefile.com, you send it, or Dropbox. And I know later in the afternoon there's going to be a presentation on social media, so I'm not really going to talk about Facebook or anything like that, but of course we all know that Facebook is a very popular vehicle for all sorts of things. Public pages, private groups. For instance, our parish has a private group for parishioners, and we also have a public page for people who are just interested. And then Facebook ads. For a little bit of money, you can create a little ad and have it pop up on a lot of people's computers. And finally, fundraising for special projects. Indiegogo is a website that, and same thing for Kickstarter. Those are two websites that are fundraising websites. And if you have a cause and you put it up on one of these websites, then people can donate directly and you can get money. And these are just kind of alternative, but soon to be mainstream ways to fundraise. And so I know I kind of moved through that really quickly because we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize the point that there are a lot of things out there that you can draw from, lots of resources, and you don't have to do it all yourself. Collaborate with other churches and collaborate with other clergy and etc. Because in this day and age, it's really not just about your parish anymore, and it's not about people walking to church from the neighborhood. And if you can really get your point across through all these different means, then all the better. Thank you. Questions or concerns, comments, situations that you find your church to be in?
Have you found an effective way to record music in the service to share it on Facebook? Is there a difference between voice recording and music recording when you're trying to share a video?
The best thing for music recording is probably to have mics hung from the ceiling. not possible. You can have things on stands like this, but the further away, the better. Not across the street, but a little bit of space kind of avoids having individual voices being picked up on mics. And yes, that is a good point, because oftentimes in churches, the choir, if they're sitting right by the pulpit or by the lectern, individual voices are being picked up if those mics are on. And so for recording, it's ideal if you have mics that are further away. And there are tools that you can have. There's a little Zoom recorder, which is really quite high quality and not too expensive, that you can use to record and then upload. It's kind of the successor to the mini disc recorder. How expensive is AGO membership, the American Guild of Organists? It's less than $100 a year. It's about $100 a year, but less. And that includes membership into the national organization, and you get the magazine every month, and it also includes membership into the local organization. And oftentimes, if you're an AGO member, then you can get your concerts for free, and so there are, or at a discount. So there are advantages, and you can also sign up for conventions at a discount rate.
If we were to record a church service and put it on YouTube, are there any issues with copyright and music that we might sing during our service?
There are, and I am not an expert on that, but I do know that there are copyright issues, especially for more contemporary music. And if you sing things that are, for instance, composed before 1920 something, probably okay, but there are, and you need to look into that. And certain licenses give you certain rights, but not for broadcasting. It's a little bit different. So yeah, I would look into that before kind of putting up everything. But with YouTube these days, there is a lot of copyright stuff on there already, and so I'm not quite sure how everyone navigates that. But there are ways to do it. Yeah.
For those of us who have smaller congregations and don't have the pool of Anglican musicians available to us because of financial needs, but who have people who are willing to be organists in our church on a full or part-time basis, is there not, or let me put it another way, is the Anglican Musicians Handbook the best tool to begin sort of on-the-job training for someone who does not come from this tradition? What would you recommend?
I think so. The Episcopal Musicians Handbook goes through every Sunday and lists what the readings are and what the theme is, and then suggestions of hymns from the Hymn of 1982, One Will on Praise, and Lift Up Your Voice and Sing. And it has a kind of planning sheet on the right for every Sunday. And so it says, well, the Gloria, what should the Gloria be this week? And you can just fill in whatever you want. And so if the clergy can work with musicians who are not necessarily familiar with the Anglican liturgy and kind of go through that together, I think that's probably the best starting point for service planning.
And just to follow up, to teach the history of that music in our tradition, is there something that's not 10 feet thick that one can give a sort of tutorial and walk a new musician through? It would be nice to have an understanding underpinning.
There probably are resources out there that are, kind of a mini summary or a guide to Episcopal worship or Anglican worship. And there actually may be some things at the beginning of the Episcopal Musicians Handbook that has. I know that they do have like pages in the beginning and at the end that have different resources. And of course, you don't want to go, to the encyclopedia and start reading from day one.
The leadership program for musicians, they'll
resource. I haven't done it myself, but I've heard of it, and I know that there are many things out there for musicians, and oftentimes interdenominational conferences are really helpful, because we share the same sorts of concerns with Presbyterian musicians and Catholic musicians and all sorts of things. So look across your denominational line for resources as well.
The LPM usually has a display at council, so we do have information.
Great. Anything else? Good. Thank you.